would you like to take a little peek at the new full Rivals rankings? Little Rivals 100, maybe? You want to take a peek?
Hey, you know me, man. I love recruiting rankings. I love super blue chips. I love combing through everything and seeing who the new guys are. And yes, Rivals.com released its new Rivals 250. We talked about the 5 stars yesterday, primarily on the recruiting hour, because Ty Haywood out of Denton Ryan is a new 5-star offensive lineman in the Rivals rankings. By the way, if you missed the recruiting hour from yesterday, we talked about DJ Sanders and why he might be the number one most important prospect in the state for every school that recruits the state of Texas, for reasons that you can watch the video and find out about. But as we talk about the new Rivals 250, Chad just put the list up, and let's kind of go through it a little bit.
Yeah, if you're a Texas fan, you're going to recognize some names here. And again, this is the whole country. This is everybody. Rivals 250. So let's get them on here.
Chad, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm done entering in my buy or sell questions.
Uh-huh.
I have a hotter than.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to overhype it. I'm going to go last today.
Okay, fair enough.
I have maybe the most interesting, out of nowhere, hotter than question that I've ever asked before. And I'll be honest, I don't know how to answer it.
All right, fair enough.
That's called a tease, people out there in the business.
That's a tease. That's a tease. We got buy or sell coming up. Here are the recruits that everybody would buy right now at the top of the Rivals rankings. So you got a young man named Julian Lewis there at the top. But catch real quickly, we see DeCorian Moore at number 4. How about 4 and 5 names we talked about? DeCorian Moore, Devin Sanchez. They faced each other in a title game. One headed to LSU in DeCorian Moore. Ohio State is Devin Sanchez. But as we cruise,
it's a hell of a thing that the top 2 kids in the state of Texas are already committed, and both of them to out-of-state schools.
Yeah, that is a bit of a statement. That is a bit of a statement right there. So, but if you are a Texas fan, you're going to see some names you like coming up pretty quickly. As we get to the end of the top 10, there's a name we've talked about, Catch. Michael Fasusi.
Michael Fasusi, a guy that I future casted to Texas. He's at number 11. There's Jonah Williams. We talked about him yesterday. I projected him, future casted him to Oklahoma, although both A&M and Texas trying to get back in on that. I think a couple of interesting names. Man, we're about to go back to back to back to back. Winston Watkins Jr., this wide receiver from Naples, Florida, he's got like a top 10. He is going to visit Texas this spring.
Okay.
I don't know how to handicap Texas's chances, but I wouldn't completely dismiss them, because once they get guys like that on campus, Sarkisian's proved to be an excellent recruiter. But file that name away. Jordan Davison, the running back from Mater Dei, he's at 15, excuse me. Yeah. I future casted him to Texas. And there goes Ty Haywood, the offensive tackle from Denton Ryan.
Catch. Look at this jump. Look at this. My man didn't just creep into 5-star status, a 43 spot jump to number 16.
That gives you an idea. This is the big postseason. This is coming out of his junior season. Rivals really liked him. They're telling you with that, Chad, they love him.
Yeah.
That's a jump.
No kidding. Now, how about
there's another name there, KJ Lacey, the Texas quarterback commitment from Alabama. He dropped a spot, but he's still 19th in the country. I think as long as he stays in that area, we're talking about a guy that will eventually get a 5-star ranking. Here's another guy, number 22 on the list. Either Jamie or Jaime French. Another guy that's going to take an unofficial visit to Texas.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it might even be an official. I need to go back and look. I saw that update in another service rankings, I think a week ago. We need to get in contact with him ourselves. He's got a visit for Texas coming up in the near future. Then if you just keep scrolling, we're still in that event. These guys all right here will be 5-stars if they keep their positioning later in the year. Rivals doesn't like to give out a ton of 5-stars early on. Dorian Brew, number 33 there, Chad.
Yep.
From Conroe. Long thought to be an Ohio State lean. I think they're still the betting favorite because he lived in Ohio and then moved to Texas last year. But he visited Texas on January 20th, and there's a lot of growing speculation that the Longhorns sit in a better position there than maybe a lot of people believe, that he's not quite locked into Ohio State the way maybe we all thought he was a year ago or even 6 months ago. Andrew Marsh at 34, a guy that we talked about a lot yesterday. He's visited Texas 9 times. He's visited A&M, I think, 7 times. He's from Katy. He visited A&M in January. I think there's a thought that they've got the lead, but that could turn into a Texas A&M battle by the time the summer rolls around. He's a guy to keep an eye on. If you just keep scrolling down, I'll keep looking for names of guys that I think Texas fans absolutely need to know. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
I think there's a couple more here before we hit the 100 mark that we've talked about a little bit. There's Armstrong.
There's my guy. Let me just say this about Kyote Armstrong. It's rare in the near 30 years. God, I hate saying that. But my first set of rankings, Chad, were in 1997.
Okay.
We're into 2025. So I really am on the verge of 30 years worth of ranking. 30 years! And in my 30 years of doing this, there may only be one other tight end from the state of Texas ever that I've looked at and been more sure of that was going to end up playing on Sundays than I am of Kyote Armstrong. This kid is 6'5", 246, athletic as hell. He can block. He can catch. He can beat you down the seam. He can beat you with jump balls. He's just a monster. I think he's undervalued at 66. Let's see if you can guess the tight end in my head that I would most compare him with. I would say this kid's not quite as just raw athletic as the guy that I'm thinking of, but he's every bit as big and physical and a two-way player and a guy that I'm certain if Kyote Armstrong doesn't get hurt and doesn't get sidetracked by any of the things that can sidetrack a guy, school, family, girls, whatever, all the stuff, right? If it's just about, is he talented enough? Who do you think's the only guy that I would rank above him off the top of my head in the last 30 years?
Martellus Bennett.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah.
And outside of Martellus Bennett, when we talk about tight ends from the state of Texas, there's really nobody else in the last 30 years. You think about a guy like Tony Hills, he ends up being an offensive tackle for Texas. And a lot of people thought he would be a defensive end when he was being recruited at the time. He was a 5-star number 1 overall player in the state. There have been a couple of other guys that are kind of in that discussion, but I think Armstrong's underrated at 66. Mm-hmm. If that kid just stays healthy and doesn't let silly stuff bring him down, if he just keeps his focus, that guy could give everybody loans in 6 or 7 years because I think he's absolutely an NFL player. Here's another one at 69. And look, Chad, you see that lightning bolt?
There's a 33 move, 33 positions move from Michael Terry.
He is, I think, one of the bigger Longhorn leans on this list.
Okay.
At San Antonio, Alamo Heights, he was outside the top 100. Now he's a borderline super blue chip at number 69 in the country. He's an incredible athlete. Here's a couple of more guys. It felt like we went about 20 names in a row, and there wasn't a lot of Texas connection. But both Dalen McCutcheon's an in-state guy. I don't know exactly where he fits in with Texas's plans. But Riley Pettyjohn, the inside linebacker from McKinney, they went and got Xavier Filsaime, and now you've got Riley Pettyjohn as a linebacker from McKinney. He's another guy. I future casted him to Texas. Mm-hmm. He is one of the most important prospects that Texas is recruiting this year in state from a positional scarcity standpoint. 6'3", 200, and filling out and growing. I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. Khalil Lockett, the wide receiver from Sage.
There's two right back to back right there, right?
Oh, and then Lamont Rogers is my guy. I think they've got him undervalued because I think Lamont Rogers is closer to Michael Fasusi than he is to any of these guys down here in this part of the list. He's a they got him listed at 6'8", 305. He's just a beautiful athletic specimen with a mean streak and all the physicality that you're looking for. I'm just a huge, huge fan. Plus, I think I'm the first one that ever ranked Lamont Rogers as a 5-star. So he's my guy. Okay. We can keep going, I guess, all the way down to 100 just to fill out this last couple of names.
I like that there's a running back named Bo Jackson. I've heard Alabama just threw him an offer.
No pressure, Bo.
No pressure, Bo. Alabama would love to get a Bo Jackson at running back. That'd be a fun story for them to tell.
That would. If you're Auburn, isn't that your sales pitch? Hey, we did it before. We can do it again.
Catch It 93 here is a name I know that was on your this guy Chad Woodfork was on your list for the 10 thoughts this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, I future casted him to Texas as well. There's some thought that he was so into Texas in January that he would have committed and that maybe Texas pushed that commitment off. It's not because they think Woodfork isn't a big-time guy that they wouldn't want to have. You and I have talked about this a bunch, though. Texas likes to pursue. They don't like to be on the defensive. Mm-hmm. So I think that they absolutely will take Woodfork in the summer, but I don't think they want to start playing defensive recruiting at this point if they don't have to. Gotcha. So I think they've said take your time, because if he takes his time, it means that Texas can be aggressive. It means that they don't have to constantly put out fires created by other schools who are trying to break up the commitment. So I think it's really about pacing themselves. This coaching staff, they prefer to chase. They prefer to pursue. They don't like to have to protect. They want to protect as little as possible. If you'll remember when Colin Simmons committed in August, one of the things I was saying about Colin Simmons was Texas would kind of prefer that he just waited. And when he announced his decision in August, they were absolutely going to take it if he was going to say Texas. But they would have been okay with him not giving a commitment in August and wait till November and December, so that when he does commit, there's as little time for them to have to play defensive recruiting as possible. They like to be on the front foot. They're not a recruiting staff that wants to counterpunch. And the moment that you get a commitment from a guy, look at KJ Lacey as a perfect example. He's committed. There's almost nothing that you can do at this point more, right? You can try, but he's already committed to you. So they're counterpunching. It's like, oh, he went to Auburn this week. Catch, what do you think about that? You got to get a report on that. What does it mean? If he were just not committed, wouldn't be a big deal at all. Oh, KJ Lacey went to Auburn. But the moment that a guy commits, it makes everything that happens beyond that a news story. Look at DeCorian Moore. He feels like he's safely committed to LSU at the moment. But there's talk that he's committed to taking a visit to A&M at some point, which if he's going to do that, my guess is he'll visit Texas. And the moment he takes a visit, it's a story. Mm-hmm. And that LSU staff will have to counterpunch. They'll have to counter whatever happens on these visits instead of just being able to aggressively pursue the way that you do when a guy's uncommitted. So I think with Woodfork, don't worry too much about that, because I think the Texas staff, as much as possible, they want these kids to wait until you get into the summer.
All right, there's a little peek at that new Rivals list. It has been updated. Remember, if you want access to all the Rivals lists and all the message boards and all the information, you can check out orangebloods.com. There's a little QR code for you. If you want to scan that, check out orangebloods.com. Every Thursday night, it's War Room night. You get the great columns throughout the week as well, including Catch's 10 Thoughts from the weekend. That hits on Sundays.